Hello everyone, welcome to the Geoecologist. I am Dr. Krishnanand, and in this session on physical geography, we are going to learn about the concepts of continental drift. So how is it that these continents moved from one position to the other on the surface of the earth that we study? So let's understand this in today's session, but before we go ahead, please like and subscribe to our channel and please share the videos with others as well. So let's learn about this concept of continental drift. So the word here is drift. What does this drift mean? It basically means a driving movement or a force. Certain words that are associated with drift are impulse, impetus, and pressure as well. So what exactly it is? It is basically an impulse or a pressure or impetus to be carried along by currents of water or air or by the force of circumstances. So this is basically the dictionary meaning of drifting. But we are talking here in terms of the drifting of continental mass. So we see through millions of years the changes that have occurred in the shape of the earth, how the land masses, that is the continental mass, has shaped up differently throughout the millions of years. So this is about the evolution concept. So let's understand further. So the story of continental drift is largely starting from a scientist, a scholar called Antonio Nider Pellegrini. So Antonio Nider Pellegrini, he was a French geographer and scientist who theorized about the possibility. Okay, so it was not talked in terms of absoluteness, but in terms of possibility of continental drift, preceding the Wegener's theories concerning the Pangaea by several decades. So basically, when Alfred Wegener gave this theory of continental drift, that many of us already know, or if you don't know, we are going to discuss. So this theory was actually conceptualized by Antonio Nider Pellegrini. So in 1858, in his book, that is interesting, The Creation and Its Mysteries Unveiled. So this was the name of Antonio Nider's book that was published in 1858. There he proposed this concept. Alright, so that is important. And his theory was based on the idea that fossils are found both in Europe and in the United States that were identical in nature. So this same concept was further developed by Wegener later on. So Pellegrini was preceded. Basically, the first person to have this kind of idea was Abraham Ortelius, and Pellegrini was followed by Edward Swiss, Roberto Montovani, Frank Bursley Taylor, and Alfred Wegener, who finally gave it a concrete shape. That's why whenever we say the concept of continental drift, always the work of Wegener is remembered, because it's one of the major works. Before that, there were concepts, but they were not concretized. So now, looking further about this evolution, if we see here, it is 4.6 billion years ago when the earth started to shape up. So the first continental mass that we see here has been termed as Valbara. Then further it grew and then it was called Ur. Alright, then further it grew and then it was known as Kinor land. So many times only Kinor we will find in terms of the word. Then further it was named Columbia or also Nuna, and then it is called Rodinia, then Pannotia, then finally Pangaea. And then from Pangaea, it further divided itself into again Laurasia and Gondwana land, and then the present has come up. So we see these stages of these evolutions, and remember these nomenclatures of the formation of continents, their movement. So the speculation that continents might have drifted was first put forward in 1596, that is the end of 16th century, and this was the prime phase of the age of discovery. So new knowledge was coming up, and Abraham Ortelius in 1596 gave this theory for the first time. Not in that way we understand it today, but as a basic idea. So it was fully developed later on in 1912. Alright, remember it was developed fully by Alfred Wegener in 1912, and he published his book The Origin of Continents and Oceans in 1915. So from 1912 to 1915, Alfred Wegener worked on this theory and developed it to the best idea of that particular time, and that was about this entire evolution, how this Pangaea broke into different segments and how we came to this present world as we know of different continents and how the ocean has shaped up. So what you see here in this image, just remember these terminologies right from this inception to Walbra to Ur to Kinnarland to Columbia Nuna to Rodinia to Pannotia, then Pangaea, then Laurasia and Gondwana, and then present. So this is the entire sequence. So now let's talk about this theory. So this theory states that the Rodinia, right from Rodinia we talk about, not before Rodinia. So right from Rodinia, that is basically a Russian word for homeland. It was conceptualized to be around 1.1 billion to 700 million years ago. So remember the age of the earth, it is about 4.6 billion. So continental mass, consolidation of the continent from the molten mass matter started about 1.1 billion years ago and continued till 700 million years ago, and this was the formation of Rodinia as the first supercontinent based on several cratons as we see. So this is called cratonization, as we see different masses being formed and joined together somewhat. So this is what we see, the first supercontinent, that is Rodinia. That's why the story starts from Rodinia, not from Pangaea. So remember that. So between 750 to 650 million years ago, it progressively fragmented into different supercontinents. The main Rodinia further fragmented into Gondwana. So Gondwana has what sections? Africa, South America, India, Antarctica, Australia of today. So this is what Gondwana is all about. And Laurasia, which is largely North America, Europe and Asia. So this was the two major segments. Apart from that, there were few others, like currently which is Scandinavia was called Baltica, and Siberian section of the Russia. So Rodinia broke into these parts around 750 to 650 million years ago. So that is where the story starts of this drifting away and movement of these continental mass. Furthermore, if we see here, you see this Rodinia as formation as we talked about. So one line of evidence that supports the formation of Rodinia is from this concept of paleomagnetism. So what is this paleomagnetism? When magnetic minerals grow in rocks, they preserve the orientation of the Earth's magnetic field of that particular time. So when it was first oriented in that way. So if we are studying that, we can understand and reconstruct the positions of the plates if we look at rocks from particular time period. So paleomagnetism is one of the important studies that gives us evidences about these concepts of continental drift that we are talking. So for example, geologists have this idea of supercontinents by this study of various grains of minerals, specifically which are durable minerals. For example, zircon. So you can remember the word zircon. It is one of the durable minerals that did not change much with higher temperatures and changes on the Earth's surface. So study of zircon particles give us lots of data about the past. So that is all about paleomagnetism. Now let's talk about the Pangaea. So how this supercontinent Pangaea was formed after the break of what we say is Rodinia. So the continental fragments dispersed during the breakup of Rodinia slowly began to come back together during the later half of Paleozoic era. So when I say Paleozoic era, remember, look at the geological time scale and you'll understand what time we are talking about. Apart from that, I am also going to make another video in which I'll discuss in detail the geological time scale. So by the Permian period, that is about 300 million years ago, the supercontinent cycle had come to the full circle. So it means first one supercontinent formed, that was Rodinia, then further it branched into different segments, different parts, and then further it consolidated. So once first consolidation, then breaking apart, then further consolidation. So this was the entire cycle all about. So first is consolidation, then there is breaking, then there is consolidation. So this cycle kept continuing on the surface of the Earth, and that is what we study in this continental drift theory. Alright, so once again we find that continents came together to form new supercontinent, that was after Rodinia. So that was Pangaea, and when it was formed about 300 million years ago, it was again consolidated. And this word Pangaea is coming from Greek word, basically means all lands. So that is what Pangaea means. And the ocean was called Panthalassa. So Panthalassa and Pangaea. So entire ocean segment was Panthalassa and entire land segment was Pangaea. Now further, if we see, the assembly of giant continent Pangaea probably caused large-scale climatic disruption and collapse of many terrestrial and oceanic systems as well. So we find that these changes that we see here, the terrestrial as well as oceanic changes, led to the world's first great mass extinction, and that is about 245 million years ago at the end of Permian period. So that is important. It is also sometimes referred to as Permian Triassic extinction. So remember, this is one of the world's first major mass extinction that we talk about, and that is credited to this continental drift theory. So literally 90% of all species of life went extinct during the first consolidation that we see, right? So during the formation of Pangaea. So the ultimate cause of this great extinction remains a subject of considerable debate. So there is still lots of debate and lots of research going on, but largely it is considered that there was an asteroid impact that disrupted the Earth's ecosystem 245 million years ago, apart from the theory that there was a large-scale change in the terrestrial and oceanic systems because of the continental drift. So all these factors together led it to the great mass extinction. Now, the story goes further ahead and we see the breakup of Pangaea now. So like its predecessor, as Rodinia broke, the giant Pangaea would also fall victim to the Earth's internal heat. So there was a lot of internal heat that was coming onto the surface and lots of changes was going on. So these geological changes about 200 to 205 million years ago led to the breakup of Pangaea. So it started about this particular time period and full-fledgedly it went into this breakup in about 175 million years ago. So there have been numerous multiple choice questions. Remember, the final breakup that we talk about, the peak of the breakup was about 175 million years ago. Now, Pangaea formed through gradual processes spanning few hundred million years. It was not formed in just few million years. So about 480 million years ago, continent that is Laurentia, which includes part of North America, merged with several microcontinents to form Euramerica. And then further Euramerica eventually collided with Gondwana. That is part of Africa, Australia, South America and Indian subcontinent that we know. So look here, right from Permian to Triassic to Jurassic to Cretaceous, you can see this peculiar changes in the land masses. So that is the story of this entire gradual process of making as well as breaking of the Pangaea, that is the largest continent after Rodinia that we say. So the first evidence was jigsaw fit of continents, then same age on different coastlines, then placer deposits, Tillites deposits, similar fossils, that is reptiles and plants found in different continents, and certain kind of animal behavior as well. So remember this entire list, and this was largely worked out in the work of Alfred Wegener. So that was about 1912 to 1915. So he talked about all these important evidences that we still study and it is validated. So let's understand. The first idea was the matching of continents, that is the jigsaw fit puzzle. So this was given by Wegener and he talked about this idea right in 1912, and further in 1964 Bullard, another scientist, made a map to find the right fit of Atlantic margins as well. So then it got its validity. So according to Wegener, coastlines of South America and Africa have remarkable and unique match. So we can look at this particular image. We see this entire coastline has interesting match, Indian subcontinent side as well, the Arabia and Africa part as well. So this is what we talk about as the jigsaw fit of all those continents. The next important thing is the rocks of same age across the oceans. So if you look at these particular rocks, these are British Isles, Caledonian Mountains, and look at this Greenland belt, this particular belt, and this part of Scandinavia. Apart from that, the mountain segment, that is Appalachian mountain segment here in North America, and the African coast, all these parts which were supposed to be of same origins on the both sides. So they have same kind of rock structure as well. And how do we know about it? Through the radiometric dating method. It has helped in terms of correlating the formation of rocks present in different continents across the ocean. So the old marine deposits found in the coasts of South America and Africa belong to Jurassic period. So that's important, and this implies that ocean never existed before that time. So when it separated, then this part became the Atlantic Ocean that we see here. So before that time there was no ocean, it was part of the same continent. Furthermore, the next evidence is the tillite deposit. So it is the sedimentary rock made from the glacier deposits that we know. So in details, when we study the glacial process and forms, we'll study the tillites as well. So the Gondwana system of sediments from India is recognized to have its counterparts in 6 different land masses. So just watch here: Madagascar, Africa, Antarctica, Falkland Island, Australia and India. These places have similar tillite deposits. It basically means that they were part of the same Gondwana system that we see. Furthermore, there are certain deposits called placer deposits. So the presence of abundant placer deposits of gold along Ghana coast in Africa and complete lack of its sources rocks in the area is phenomenal fact. It basically means that how is this placer deposits just there in that particular segment while it has no linkage with the other kind of rocks which is surrounding it. So the gold deposits of Ghana in Africa are obtained from the Brazil Plateau from the time when the two continents were beside each other. So it has a remarkable correlation with what is there in the Brazilian Plateau. So Ghana Plateau and Brazilian Plateau of Africa has similar time period of these deposits. So that's another evidence. Then further, we observe the distribution of fossils across the continents. So there are certain fossils, for example, the fossil remains of Cynonanthus, a Triassic land reptile approximately 3 meter long that has been found on South America as well as African continent. Fossil remains of Mesosaurus, similar kind of depositions have been found. Then what we see is the plant fossils as well. For example, Glossopteris. So that is found on Antarctica as well as Australian segment as well. And other kinds of fossils from the Triassic land reptile, that is Lystrosaurus, has been found in Africa and India. So this kind of connection that we see across this continent basically brings to this evidence again that they were once part of the single continental whole that we see as Gondwana. So lemmings are important animals that we talk about when we talk about animal behavior. So lemmings found in Scandinavian nations appear to commit suicide by jumping off the Norwegian coast. This is explained as continuity of migration behavior. So remember, once this two land which is now separate and there is a Norwegian sea is there in between. So what happens here is that these lemmings were traditionally feeded to just go to this part and migrate. But what happened as it drifted away, so there was this ocean in between, but the animal behavior was embedded in the gene pool and it is supposed to do the same behavior as well, and now it gets drowned as it goes into this water because the land has shifted now. So there is a drift evidence through animal behavior as well, although this is a speculative theory. Now the next questions are, how did it happen? So what is the process? So Wegener proposed that movement accountable for the drifting of these continents was instigated by tidal force and pole fleeing force. Now remember these two names, pole fleeing force and tidal force. So the pole fleeing force relates to the rotation of the earth, that is one point, and tidal force, as we know, is the gravity. So both the gravity as well as Coriolis force are supposed to be major part of this movement according to Alfred Wegener's theory. So most of the scholars consider these forces to be totally insufficient. So this was criticism of Wegener as well, and later on further discussion happened. So what we see is that Wegener was not able to provide a concrete mechanism for this theory until in 1960s, as we see when Harry Hess gave this concept of sea floor spreading. Then this idea of drift, which was earlier proposed by Wegener, found life again. So remember Harry Hess, who gave this idea of sea floor spreading, saying that there is a sea floor which is spreading away from each other and there is a rise of material from within. It means this is drifting in different directions. So this was given, and that further led to this concretization of this concept. But at the time in 1912 to 15, Wegener could not defend this theory in an apt manner. So later on, when plate tectonics in 1960s came into the concept, so it further led to this validity of this concept of continental drift. So now let's take a question. So consider the following statements. According to Wegener, all the continents formed a single continental mass and mega oceans surrounded the same. The supercontinent was named Panthalassa, which meant all earth, and mega ocean was called Pangaea, meaning all water. Pangaea first broke into two large continental mass, Laurasia and Gondwana. The continent of Gondwana was named after Gondwana region of central India. Now these are the four statements that we see, and then we have options. So take your time, and before I give you answers, just think and give your own answer. So the answer is B. So B option is here, 1 and 4. Remember the correct ones we are talking about. So only 1 and 4 are correct. So why are these two statements not correct? See here, Pangaea was basically all lands, and it is saying here all water, and Panthalassa was all water. So that is one thing, that's why this is wrong. And Pangaea first broke into two large continental masses, Laurasia and Gondwana, forming the southern and northern components respectively. But it should be northern and southern, isn't it? Because Gondwana was the southern one and Laurasia was the northern one. So remember, when we solve these kind of questions, be very careful about what has been asked. So now, when we have learned about the concept of continental drift and its validity when the plate tectonic theory came in, so in lectures to come, we'll be learning about the theory of plate tectonic. So stay safe, stay tuned, and all the best wishes.